right, we are at that appointed hour. And so we are going to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for joining us here today. And I'm going to ask Tammy to please call the roll.
Absolutely. I believe that Baker was going to be joining us electronically. Do we not have?
He's here. We'll get him up.
Great.
I'm here.
So we will start then with Beckman.
Here.
Norton.
Present.
Schubring.
Here.
Tyne.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Wheelock.
Here.
And do we have Baker?
Here.
Great.
I hear you, Doug. We can't see you yet, but we can hear you. So thank you.
We will mark all present.
And because obviously some of our colleagues are participating remotely, we are going to be conducting our votes via roll call today. Can I ask for a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Tammy, please call the roll.
Baker.
Aye.
Beckman.
Aye.
Norton.
Aye.
Schubring.
Aye.
Tyne.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of our December meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Tammy, please call the roll.
Baker.
Aye. Aye.
Beckman.
Aye.
Norton.
Aye.
Schubring.
Aye.
Tyne.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye. All right. The next item on our agenda is to open up for public comments. Before I open up our public comment period, I'd like to note that we will actually in this same meeting be having a separate public hearing on the update to our development plan. So if anyone is here to talk about that, you certainly are welcome to talk about it now, but I also invite you to wait until the public comment period on that agenda item for any of you that wish to speak solely about that. If I could, if you are going to speak during this public comment period, or actually the next one as well, please state your name for the record, if you would, when you open up your comments or introduce your comments. And with that, I will open it up for the public comment period for this meeting. Is there anyone that would like to? Thank you.
Good morning, board. My name is Karen Lemke, and I have the pleasure of serving as the library director across the street at Rochester Public Library. This last year, I had the opportunity to participate in the DMC plan update process and was really honored to be part of this important work. Our library is deeply connected to our community. Every day, we're interacting with community members, visitors to this area, and those folks are navigating those changes that are happening in the downtown corridor. So it gives us a really unique perspective on how people are experiencing the growth and the transformation and how we can help make that a positive experience. The timing of my involvement was actually really interesting because the library had just completed about a 1.5-year long study for our own library master plan, which is our long-range vision for how we are transforming how we deliver services now and into the future. Both the DMC plan and our library master plan share some common themes, adaptability and innovation. Libraries have to evolve always, and we're evolving alongside the city. We're reimagining spaces, services, and technologies to both remain relevant and also be really responsive to what our community needs. Our master plan specifically calls for the library to strengthen our own partnerships with organizations, including DMC, so that we can really align our efforts and have an even greater impact. One area of alignment that stands out is the DMC's plan, the strategic focus really on the public realm. We're hearing that all the time. People are really craving connection. Libraries are natural anchors for vibrant public spaces. In 2025, Rochester Public Library welcomed over 400,000 visitors. So on a daily basis, anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 folks walk through our doors. That makes us one of the busiest library outlets in the state of Minnesota. We're already a destination for families, for Mayo patients, for seniors, for entrepreneurs, people who are just really looking to learn, to create together and to connect. So we really do see some opportunities in more collaboration with DMC by supporting public spaces, expanding technology access, promoting inclusion. As Rochester grows, we look forward to exploring partnerships that strengthen a thriving, welcoming community. So thank you for including the library in your plan update and for considering us as a partner. I really, really appreciate, and I can't say it enough, how the update process engaged community voices. Collaboration like this is really essential. That's going to lead to a stronger and more responsive plan for Rochester's future. So thank you.
Thank you. Any others for this public comment period?
Good morning. I'm Joe Ward, President of the Mayo Civic Center and Experience Rochester. So welcome here for this meeting and your others you've held here. We really appreciate that. But I wanted to also speak to the plan. And Experience Rochester is pleased to support the Destination Medical Center's 10-year development plan update and applauds the continued focus on advancing Rochester as a global leader in healthcare, innovation, and quality of life. Rochester's long-term success depends on sustaining a strong healthcare economy, while also ensuring the city is experienced as a vibrant, welcoming destination for visitors even beyond healthcare. Tourism, hospitality, conventions, arts, and entertainment play a critical role in activating downtown, strengthening the local economy, enhancing the experience for visitors, for employees, for our children, for everybody in this community. Experience Rochester's efforts, including our recent This is Rochester, Really campaign, reflect a shared commitment to broadening Rochester's narrative and showcasing the city's culture. Dining, outdoors, amenities, and all of its creative energy. As we begin a tourism master planning process, I'm getting older, so getting harder the further I go. We look forward to leveraging the insights, data, and long-range vision outlined in the DMC development plan, and we appreciate everyone's partnership. We want to help inform tourism planning and ensure strong alignment between tourism strategy, economic development, and community partners, and community priorities in particular. Informed by this shared long-term vision, Experience Rochester is well-positioned to partner with all of you to provide insights that support purposeful growth, a strong downtown community experience, and an economic vitality to last years to come. We value the collaborative leadership of the DMC EDA and look forward to a continued partnership to ensure Rochester's success in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, DMC board. Sean Fagan, I'm the executive director of the Rochester Downtown Alliance, small business owner, property owner for downtown for the last 19 years as well. It's been the thread that's been coming out from the past two peers and collaborators is the idea of doing this together in Rochester. The idea of collaboration in DMC has been phenomenal in the year and a half that I've stepped across the street to lead the Rochester Downtown Alliance. In the process, I've had the opportunity to sit up as part along with DMC team members, Smith Group, to be a part of putting together as they analyze and share this 10-year update, the opportunity to hear, but then the opportunity to share, and then the opportunity to see that responsiveness of the DMC team through this update. We're thrilled with it. We're excited. As Ms. Lemke shared, for our organization, the idea of designing with health in mind, the designing for community connection, and then to further that collaboration. Myself and the organization with the Rochester Downtown Alliance are thrilled with where the plan is. And it was interesting as we wrapped at 25 and I met with colleagues and others in the community and stakeholders, community members, other partners in our community. Momentum that people are feeling that downtown and our city has is tremendous. So let's keep going. I loved Governor Walz's words at DMC's event a few months ago as we celebrated 10 years. We're at halftime. Now let's run up the score. As a competitor, I love that. So I'm excited for what this update presents for our community. I'm excited for the continued momentum of our downtown. So thank you.
All right, I will now close this public comment period. And again, we will have another public comment period later on in our agenda. For the chair report, there are a couple of items that I'd like to cover, and I would invite Patrick Sieb to come to the table to participate in this conversation with us. First, I'd like to let the board know that I recently met with the executive leader of the Greater MSP, Peter Frosch. Many of you know the organization, many of you know Peter. You certainly know that our organizations work closely on business recruitment, health tech ecosystem development, and international brand development. And specifically, Mike Flynn works very closely with Greater MSP. About a year ago, they formally incorporated us in the Federal Tech Hub initiative that they are leading, which we more commonly refer to in our discussions as MedTech 3.0. You should know that Patrick and Peter will be working closely together to see if there are ways where we could more formally signal the mutual commitment between our organizations and recognizing the independence of the metro, interdependence of the metro to Rochester region, especially in the area of health tech innovation. I'd like to ask Patrick just to comment on that a little bit further before I move on.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Again, many of you are familiar with the MedTech 3.0 initiative, which has really been a opportunity for this entire region to look for ways to collaborate, and that continues to advance through a federal process. That being said, our relationship with Greater MSP goes well beyond that. And I think there is a real effort to signal the clear mutual relationship that we have with each other and the way in which we can count on each other, if you will, for that kind of work going forward into the future. And so I hope to bring back a suggested model that could in fact be a model that we use with other regional organizations as well.
Thank you. The other item that I want to spend a few minutes on in the chair's report is the issue of immigration and customs enforcement. It's certainly top of mind. It's certainly either because of the direct impact it has in our lives, our businesses' lives, our family and friends' lives, or the lives of those in our community. We are very much focused on this in Minnesota. It's an unprecedented time about the way in which this enforcement activity is moving forward and the impact it's having on our communities. I would like to ask Patrick to spend a few minutes with our board to talk about how this is being experienced in Rochester and the impact that it's having immediately on economic impact currently, and perhaps some views on longer term implications as we think about Minnesota being a place to recruit talent, to recruit private investment. And so I'd like to ask Peter or Patrick to have some conversation with us about that. But I would also welcome any additional comments from members of our board. And I'll ask Cody to keep an eye on our board member that's participating virtually in the event that he would like to add something as well. So Patrick, can I turn it over to you?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, for this opportunity. And you've asked me to address this from an economic impact point of view, which will be the focus of my remarks. And I have prepared comments, and which I will use. But before I talk about the economic impact, I do want to acknowledge the human toll it is taking on our community. And particularly certain sectors and members of our community, perhaps less visible than the stories we're hearing out of Minneapolis, but painfully impactful nonetheless. So students who are missing school, families unwilling to leave their homes, employees afraid to show up for work. And not dissimilar to the Twin Cities, Rochester community has responded by providing support to those directly affected through mutual aid, rent assistance, school patrols, and a host of other things. So just know that for those of you who aren't centered in Rochester, know that this community is impacted, and members of the community and leadership in our community is responding. Acknowledging this, let me turn to my assessment of how current conditions are affecting downtown vitality, investment appeal, workforce stability, and community confidence. So first, let me comment on immediate near-term impacts that we're seeing, most of which I'm going to describe as anecdotal. We don't have yet a rich data source to fully document this, but certainly a number of downtown businesses, particularly restaurants, are reporting episodic workforce absenteeism and changes in customer behavior. So people concerned about coming into their jobs, businesses that have locked their doors and only letting people in as they are comfortable. Some employers have fielded questions about from prospective hires who are reconsidering their relocation plans. So people who are coming from outside of Minnesota, asking questions and considering the impact of their relocation. And some visitors and patients are delaying appointments and avoiding downtown activity. Some events have been canceled. At the same time, many businesses and institutions continue to operate with apparent normalcy. Employees, patrons, visitors adapting day by day, businesses staying as active and open as possible in upcoming events like Social Ice, and the name remains Social Ice, intentionally so, scheduled for, in its now 20th year, I think, scheduled for this coming weekend, will we hope bring peaceful and joyful economic boost to the downtown. And I do want to acknowledge the ongoing dialogue with public officials, mayor and Council President Schubring, the entire city council, police chief and Olmsted sheriff for their active and sensitive discussion around all of these issues. On the horizon, and just looking out, I would say our out-of-state recruitment efforts continue and interest in Rochester remains strong. Recent events come up in our conversations with our partners and prospects around the country and the world, and they so far have not displaced the core reasons companies engage with us. People remain interested in joining and leveraging downtown Rochester's unique ecosystem, talent base, and adjacency to the world's best medical center. International delegation visits continue, and we're planning for them, and they continue to be organized. Out-of-state real estate equity continues to flow into our community, and we've seen significant out-of-state equity flowing into our community, and to date, that remains. Before I address longer-term concerns, I just want to emphasize these are initial observations, not final conclusions. They are signals that deserve careful monitoring. And we are working to identify the most useful in-the-moment indicators of downtown activity and workforce stability. And we're participating in local convenings of employers, business leaders, and partners to listen to and understand what they are all experiencing. So our team will continue to pay attention to the conditions around us and report to you as needed. Turning to potential long-term impacts. By its very nature, Destination Medical Center Initiative is a long-term strategy designed to leverage current and build new assets for Minnesota's economy. Nearly everything, I should say, one of my colleagues refers to our work as being in the risk mitigation business. Our job and much of our work is to minimize risk as to make Rochester less risky than other options, whether it's health tech innovation, housing development, or the college choices. So there is a scenario where Minnesota is broadly perceived as too risky a place. It will be and could be experienced through a sort of quiet quitting. Immigrant talent that will choose other places, parents who will help their kids choose other college options, national real estate equity that goes elsewhere, business expansion that simply doesn't happen here. And there is another scenario, one that I will advocate for, and that is that we trade on this moment, that we collectively, with our partners, recast the images coming out of Minnesota for what they represent. When I ask people from outside of Minnesota, and I've had many conversations with whom we are doing business, I ask them what they are seeing. And here are some of the words they describe. Resilient, courageous, collaborative, true inclusivity, inspired. And I think the opportunity in front of us is to think about how do we use these characteristics that people are seeing about Minnesota as a brand that is attractive, and how do we position that? How do we work with partners to double down on that brand and those characteristics? So thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. We've added this agenda item just to make sure that we have this public discussion so that members of the community who follow our work understand the impact in this opportunity, and that the public understands that we're paying attention to both the near term and the longer term implications that this may have for our community and indeed for our mission in our work. I'd like to provide the opportunity to open it up for comments or questions from members of our board, and I'll turn first to Member Norton.
Thank you. And Patrick, thank you for addressing this issue, and Chair Wheelock for bringing it up. It's a tough one. I will say, first off, long term, I remain hugely enthusiastic about Rochester's future. We are going to have a slowing down or a pause here for a moment, as we have during other very difficult times in America's history and in our city's recent history. But I'm enthusiastic about the long-term impacts. I do want to just highlight for folks one example of the economic impacts that were just mentioned. Our businesses have been struggling, many of them, particularly businesses who have an ethnic feature of food or ethnic owners, may well be immigrants to this community. They have been struggling and have asked me the question, do I stay open or do I not stay open? They're struggling every day with staying open for the economic benefit of their business, and of course, all that it takes to run a business, but also the impact on their employees that work there, who will not be able to bring paychecks home. And the idea that if they open their doors, their employees could be at risk, or their patrons could be at risk. This is a real threat. This is a real concern for our local businesses. And I will tell you, one local business actually was reported on and posted, received death threats as a result of this. This is not okay in this community. But the resilience, as Patrick pointed out, means that those individuals have gone back, they've talked to their employees, they've thought about ways they can do things differently and better, and they've reopened their doors, which gives me great hope and speaks to the resiliency of Minnesota people. And also to remember that this, while the state of Minnesota and we here in Rochester are feeling this very deeply right now, it has happened over the last year to other cities who have also remained resilient and who are moving ahead and who know what we're going through, and can feel it and respect it. So the last point I'll just make, the Chamber of Commerce held an event here just a few days ago. It could have been yesterday, I can't even remember. Day before yesterday, they held an event and they had a nationally known speaker to come talk about economic development. And the last words were, the answer to America, not just Rochester, not just Minnesota, but America's future is immigration. He was very clear about that. It is immigration that is going to help us replace the lack of births and the employment needs that we have in this community. So it is my hope that the business community writ large is hearing that and understanding it, and that we will all get through this together, despite the difficulties we're having right this moment. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you very much. Member Schubring.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for bringing up this issue in this forum, which is a statewide body. There's a lot of focus on Minneapolis, rightfully so, but we do need to call attention to that this is a statewide issue, that it's affecting Rochester, Winona, Mankato, Fargo, Moorhead, Austin, other cities around the city. From a city council standpoint, I was very proud of our council meeting on Monday, where we passed unanimously a resolution calling on Rochester as a compassionate city. That resolution had two parts. One is respect, showing the respect and value that we take as a community to everyone who lives here, our immigrant community, our BIPOC community, celebrating the diversity of Rochester, including our international visitors that come here. And the second part was really clarifying our role as the city and the Rochester Police Department as to what our police do not do, which is coordinate with the federal officers, and that we do. Our officers are there to keep the peace. They're there to respond to potential criminal activity, and bottom line, to ensure that our community is safe. And it really, in our last two council meetings, we had over 50 speakers and heard impassioned experiences, direct experiences, two young teenage Somali boys who were protecting their sister because officers were banging on their doors. And so it really is creating a chilling effect in our community. And I feel for those that are impacted directly, but it impacts all of us. And we feel that anxiety, and then it translates to, how we work in our community, going grocery shopping, going to restaurants, and whatnot. And to pick up on what the mayor talked about, we have to really be clear and bold that we rely on the immigrant community. Our restaurant community would shut down if it weren't for immigrants, our construction industry, our hospitality industry. And so really making sure we hold our heads up and say, these are our residents and they are adding to the economic and productivity of our community here in Rochester and all of greater Minnesota. So I thank you for bringing it up in this forum, and I appreciate the long range thinking that Patrick is giving. Just a little bit more, and I don't want to take too much time, but it's, from a short-term, day-to-day operations standpoint, this is unprecedented times for everything. We are, in a sense, responding to incidents and situations on a daily basis. I commend our police department and our Chief Franklin for really being flexible and responding to a changing situation, a changing environment locally, and an unknown environment at the national level. So thank you.
Thank you. Other questions and comments, Member Beckman?
I appreciate this conversation, Chair, and Patrick, thanks for your thoughtful. I know we've talked a few times offline as we're both sort of trying to process what's happening to our state. And what I've come to think about it is similar to during the pandemic, where there's a stay-at-home order and there's online school and there's daily disruptions to family events and going to services. And there's a huge amount of anxiety and fear in the face of the unknown. But this time it's just for a smaller, very vulnerable, and very racially targeted community, and at the hands of our federal government. And, during the pandemic, the federal government pushed resources into the state to help make up for all of those disruptions to life, for kids who are online, for access to food supports, for ability to cover rent payments and small business help. And the federal government is obviously not helping the state in how they are having their outsized law enforcement presence here, that I object to very much. And they're also not going to turn around and help us recover from what they've just inflicted on us. And so when I think about the amount of mutual aid that is happening in communities, and we're doing food supports, but we know from COVID that this level of school disruption, the amount of learning loss that's happened is dramatic.
Yeah.
So our kids who are staying home are going to be farther behind the States. But I think about and like sitting here with this DMC hat on, the small business. And so I think I would put back to Patrick and the EDA team, if we have to pivot somehow in order to respond to this unplanned man-made crisis that has impacted our business community, and the federal government is not going to do the small business loans and the employee payments that they did in 2020, 2021, how do we step in? How does local government step in? The county is going to get called on. I mean, in the cities, there's push for rent eviction moratoriums, for emergency rent payments. All of us at the local and state level are going to have to fill in the gap for what the federal government has imposed on us and how they're not digging us out the way we had in COVID. So I guess I would look for proposed solutions. And I don't know if that's the DMC and the EDA role, but I would like there to be thought for that. And even if it is, no, we don't do that, then I'd like to have that discussion.
I'll offer just a thank you for those comments. And I know that statutorily, the tools that we have available are very specific and in some ways feels more limited than what is oftentimes ideal to us, but we work in partnership with others. And sometimes what we can do is lean deeper into the tools that are available and allow one of our partners to take up a space where we can't engage. So let's take your feedback along with the other comments, and we'll reflect on those and ask Patrick to see if there are some opportunities to both monitor what is happening in our community and engage collaboratively with others to help fill some of those gaps. Other comments or questions, Member Williams?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Patrick, for the overview. I would agree with that, looking for opportunities to partner with our other folks, other partners on investing. We need to both celebrate diversity in our immigrant communities, and we need to invest at the same time. And so that's top of mind. I just keep I keep hoping that this is a short-term thing, and I keep worrying that it is actually a longer-term thing. One, I have been absolutely overwhelmed by the mutual aid in the community across the state. I know I've heard about that here in Rochester. It's impacted me, my extended family, people I know, all of us. I think it has impacted. These are my people. We are wired. Someone told me in a conversation about this the other day. We are wired to care for our neighbors, and we are not wired to do this, to do what seems to be happening here. And I think Minnesota is setting an example, perhaps a model for how you respond to this in multiple ways. But the mutual aid has just been absolutely unbelievable. But on that long-term question, I do worry about the workforce implications, worry about the workforce implications for Mayo. I think the figure I was sharing with Council President Schubring, I think in 2024, we had net in migration and net immigrant infusion of 2 million individuals in 2024. It was 0 in 2025. And you can probably expect that the same will be true. And so the impact, what I fear actually is the brain drain that the world's best students and scientists won't choose to come here, but also can't choose to come here. And then for our folks who are here, the demographics don't lie. That is our future workforce, is in immigrant communities and communities of color. And so we can run, but you can't hide. And so the long-term implications for workforce to me, are a real concern on the economy in the long run. And so the short-term steps that we're taking, I think, are really important. Grateful for those. Grateful for Minnesota's response, for Rochester's response, and for DMC figuring out how it can be supportive in all of this. So,
Quick comment. Yes, Member Norton.
Yeah, I want to be clear to the board here who isn't in Rochester necessarily day by day, but Patrick Sieb and his team have been at the table partnering already, and we're deeply grateful. I had a leaders meeting. We had representation, several members from the DMC EDA that were there, DMC organization. And so we already have a good partnership. It is one of the beauties of Rochester that we're small enough. We all know each other. And when we call, people respond. So that's already happening. And I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that, and that I think I have no doubt that it will continue.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from the board? I just want to make one final statement. I learned a lot about what was important in life by growing up on a small dairy farm outside of Waseca, not too far from here. And from a mother who taught me about what it means to be in community and to provide support for neighbors, and a father who taught me about values and critical thinking. And I'd like to ask people to be critical thinkers. There's plenty of room for civil discourse on public policy. It's the foundation of our country, but use your head about what is true and what is reliable, and ask critical questions. Know the difference about what does it mean if you're not a citizen, but you're here legally? What are our constitutional rights, our Bill of Rights? What is a violation of constitutional rights, and how do you know it? Use your head that God gave you, and hopefully the great education system in Minnesota trained you how to use, and be a productive member of the conversation in our communities.
Sounds like you're quoting your dad.
Thank you very much for this. And Patrick, thank you for your ongoing support and that of your team and your partners. So finally, I'm going to move on and just say that we will, in between our regular meetings, we will also have an executive committee of this board scheduled to meet on March 13th for the purpose to review and certify the 2025 private investment report. Both Mayo and non-Mayo, that report then advances to DEED, the state agency that is responsible for monitoring and accepting that information in advance of their April 1st deadline. So it's certainly optional if you're not a member of the executive committee. For any board member, you can participate if you so choose. It is not required, but you are certainly welcome should you wish to attend. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and I'm going to ask Tammy to call the roll.
Baker,
Aye.
Beckman. Aye. Norton. Aye. Schubring.
Aye.
Tyne.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
And Chair Wheelock.
Aye. The next item is the annual report to the legislature, which is for the members on page 15. And there is a resolution that we will be approving. But I'd like to ask Tammy to provide some context about this agenda item for our board discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. The annual report is a DMCC city report. It is required by Minnesota statutes that we prepare this report and submit it by February 15th. The report is provided to legislative and state agency leadership, as well as the chair of the Olmsted County Board. And we file this report every year, and it contains certain elements that we must include. And these elements are outlined in Minnesota state statute. So there are 5 important things that we have to include in our annual report. The first is a description of our development plan and any modifications or changes that are being contemplated or brought forward with respect to that plan. The second is the progress of any of the projects that we have outlined in our plan. Third is the actual costs and financing of these projects, including amounts that have been paid to date using state aid or local contributions. Fourth, the estimated costs and financing sources of projects that we anticipate commencing within the next 2 years. And again, this includes a breakdown of anticipated contribution from DMCC, city, county, and Mayo. And then finally, debt service schedules for all city debt issued for DMCC projects. And so these are the elements of the plan that we include each year. The plan has been prepared this year for the board's consideration, and I believe Patrick will walk us through that plan now.
Thank you. Thank you. I won't spend much time on highlighting key elements, but the report does document the progress on Bold Forward. It documents our investments in mobility, historic preservation, med tech, and it acknowledges that we are updating, as you will today, the 5-year update to the DMC development plan. So a well-written report, credit staff for taking the lead and organizing it. And it's at your disposal, but I think it's a very well written report and shares a lot of the great progress. And I think the state will feel the return on investment that they're getting out of this commitment to Rochester.
I don't want to cut this agenda item short, but this is really reporting on what we already know because we've executed on this work over a period of time. So unless first, can I get a motion on the table first?
I'll move the item.
Is there a second?
Sec-
Moved and seconded.
I just want to thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out that as we all know, we have a yes and yes model where the DMC board works in tandem with the city council. And we had a robust discussion in November, and the city council actually passed this on its consent agenda on February 2nd without it being pulled down, which I think is good news on the cooperation between the city and the DMC, that the cadence of discussion and decision making is working really well. Well, I commend Patrick and his team and Cindy and her team as well.
So, Member Schubering, I just want to say you've stole my thunder for the next agenda item. I think that's a report on the action of the development plan.
You know.
So we want to come back and finish our action on the report to the legislature. Patrick, is there something that you want to add?
Okay.
So seeing no more discussion, can I ask Tammy to take the roll?
Absolutely. Baker,
Aye.
Beckman, Norton, Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
and Chair Wheelock.
Aye. In between this item and the one that we are anxious to follow up on with your comments, I would like to actually get the opportunity to invite Dr. Clark Otley to provide comments on behalf of the EDA board as president of the EDA. So welcome, Dr. Otley, and thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you, Chair Wheelock, and thank you, members of the board, for the thoughtful conversation, and to the members of the public. It's a big day again for DMC. You've just considered the annual report to the legislature, which outlines all of the deliverables over the past year and decade, $2 billion of verified private investment, high impact public infrastructure, generational private development, and the disciplined use of public resources. We take the work of DMC very seriously, and we believe that this report affirms that the DMC model delivers tangible impact for our citizens and for our state. Most importantly, though, behind the numbers are people, and those people include our citizens who look to our community for living their lives in profitable and productive ways through the challenges and the benefits of robust development. Tens of thousands of employees who depend on their livelihoods for growth and opportunity, and the taxpayers of Minnesota who expect the kind of results that we have delivered in America's City for Health. Looking at the agenda, you've just done some reporting and accountability, and now we're on to governance and strategy, the more fun part. In a few minutes, you'll take up the 5-year update to the DMC document, and that has been, as has been said, advanced by the City Council and the DMC EDA Board. The development plan reflects on lessons we've learned over the past decade, including where the DMC model is working well, where market conditions have shifted, and why continued strong collaboration is absolutely essential to our mission. The update then looks to the future through 3 strategic priorities: accelerating health innovation, designing for well-being, and driving purposeful growth. These priorities focus on areas and opportunities that our people are depending on. Those include patients who seek cures, employees who seek careers, families who are building their lives in this community, and the innovators who are trying to develop the next generation of cures. Over the next 24 months, we've got a huge slate of projects that are coming online, including BioLabs Rochester, September 2026, $38 million worth of investment over the next 2 years surrounding Unbound to make sure that we translate this vision into a commitment to make the world's best medical center and city for visitors and for our community. Link BRT, summer of 2027, Civic Center North project, May 2026 start date. The West Transit Village just recently awarded $17.5 million. 6th Street Bridge, fall 2026, and the downtown Small Riverfront project, summer and fall of 2026. We've got a lot of action happening over the next 12 to 24 months. As we move into the second decade of DMC, I'd like each and every one of the people in this room and outside this room to do some brainstorming about our future. And we've started that already. Key questions to consider are, how do we collectively nail the landing on DMC 1.0, like our Suni Lee did at the Olympics? How do we complete all of our projects within budget and on time? And then secondly, how do we prepare for the perpetuation of the DMC effect past December 31st, 2024, to continue to strengthen Rochester, Minnesota as America's city for health in support of Mayo Clinic's role as the premier destination medical center in the world? So exciting times, and we've got the right people to do it. So on behalf of the DMC board and staff, I want to thank you and express our significant gratitude for the partnership that we have in enacting this dynamic plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Otley. Next on our agenda, we are going to move to the development plan, the 5-year update. And I'll do a couple of things. I'll ask Tammy to kick off the presentation, and then Patrick and his team will walk us through the plan update, and then we will open it up for public hearing. But I did want to really echo the comments made by Council President Schubring and thank the City Council and the support of the mayor for the consideration of this document over the last several months and the unanimous action taken a couple of weeks ago. It is in partnership with the city, and it is the result that you're going to see is the result of many months of very collaborative work. And with that, I'll ask Tammy to give us the statutory elements of the plan, and then we'll turn it over to Patrick and team.
Great. Thank you, Chair Wheelock. As you noted earlier, much of the work that is done by DMCC is prescribed by Minnesota state statutes. And one of the things that is required of DMCC is that every 5 years we update our development plan. And there are 2 aspects of today's action that I want to make sure you're thinking about. The first is procedural requirements, and the second is more of the substantive requirements. And I will speak first to the procedural requirements, and then much of the substantive information will be provided by Patrick and team. So procedurally, the 5-year update is something that we've talked about in these meetings before, but there are certain things we need to do in order to formally adopt this 5-year plan. And that includes receiving approval from the city, which happened at its meeting. And then second, to make sure that we are receiving public input and public comments. So a copy of the proposed plan update was provided for members of the public, and we've given people an opportunity to review this revised plan. And what we're doing today is holding the other part of our obligation, which is a public hearing. So it will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments and feedback to you, which you will be asked to consider in your final adoption of the development plan update. From a substantive perspective, I will say that there are a number of things that the state law requires us to include in these 5-year updates. If you think about it as our strategic planning tool, and our outline for the future. We need to be looking at fiscal and economic impacts and estimates of the work we're going to do. We need to talk about how we prioritize public investment. We look at land use and transportation, transit planning, operational planning, and ongoing market research. And you can see here on the screen the very specific substantive requirements. And I believe Patrick and others will be talking through all of the elements of the plan today for your review and ultimate approval.
Thank you, Tammy. Patrick?
Thank you. Not only is it required by state law, but it's actually a good idea, which is a pleasant moment. I'm going to turn to Catherine Malmberg from our team, who's led this process, and Cindy Steinhauser, Deputy City Administrator, who partnered with us as we just do a very brief walkthrough. You've seen much of this material, but we just want to, for the record, provide this information again. Catherine.
Thank you so much. Thrilled to be here this morning. As you can see, this has been a journey. That gray bar across the top shows that this has been a process, which has been a really, I have to say, and I think you heard from some of our stakeholders that participated earlier in the meeting today, it's been a joy to connect with our partners and the community and to collectively dream about what the future can look like. And so here we are today, the red star at the bottom, final action today requested to advance this plan. There were many opportunities over the course of this process to interact, engage, have conversation with many different stakeholders across the community, and then to bring that back to our planning and dreaming for the future. So what is this document? In our December meeting, we walked through it in more detail, but it's an evolution of that original plan. It went to the City Council first. As Council President Schubring mentioned, we were very pleased that they gave us a ton of great feedback, which I'm going to show that we were able to incorporate. There are no specific projects in there, but it's a guiding strategic framework for investment looking forward. These are our strategic priorities, which you have heard about in detail, but again, happy to address any further questions on it. This is an overview of what we heard in the November study session with City Council, sort of pulling out the themes that we heard across the conversation, across the council. And it was a really engaging conversation. What you see in green here is where we addressed each of those topics in the supplemental information that we added after November to the plan. You will see there's an extensive appendix now to the plan that has a greater level of just kind of diving deep into some of these topics. When we were before you in December, these were the themes that we heard coming out of that conversation, and noting again where we either have incorporated some additional information into the update or where we have noted this is part of our ongoing work looking ahead as we move into implementation of the plan. A couple of those opportunities are coming up rather soon. We're going to be bringing back consulting advisor Urban 3 to do a presentation on tax capacity, land use, and their fiscal analysis. They did this in 2020. It was very well received. We're excited to bring them back in partnership with the city in the second quarter. We're also going to be doing some deeper dives into the potential economic impact analysis and projections going forward. And then on May 28th, we'll be having our annual DMC Real Estate Summit. And this year, the housing innovation focus will likely be on ownership opportunities and wealth building opportunities, because we've been hearing a lot of interest in that as an innovation focus for that event this year. So just wanted to bring those to everyone's attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick?
I think
Any further comments?
Yep, I think that's the formal presentation. And
wonderful. Then what we will do is we'll proceed with opening up the meeting to the public hearing. And again, I would invite you to come to the microphone. Please state your name and please try to limit it to a couple of minutes. Any additional comments that you want to share with the board. So we did receive some comments earlier in our meeting in the public hearing. So no pressure, but if there's someone that would like to make some comments, please approach the microphone.
Good morning. My name is Bruce Thompson. I'm the CEO of Urbaneer, which creates tech-enabled homes that care for the resident. Over the past 16 months, with inspiration and guidance from the DMC, we've been working with our partner, the Well Living Lab, to launch a project that you will hear more about in the next few months called the Home Innovation Lab, focused on healthy aging in place. The Home Innovation Lab is working on problems that I am truly convinced could only be solved here in Rochester. I say that for three key reasons. The first, Rochester is America's city for health and home to the Mayo Clinic. Second, there are additional innovation assets that include the University of Minnesota Rochester, Discovery Square, and the Well Living Lab. Third, the DMC 5-year plan, as we just heard, is focused on housing innovation. I want to end by saying that Urbaneer has been so inspired by the work that the DMC is doing that we're actually moving our company to Rochester to launch the Home Innovation Lab and to help build living environments that care for the resident. I will add, through the Home Innovation Lab, we are bringing an age tech ecosystem of both startups and enterprise companies that also believe in the vision and the power of what's happening in Rochester. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments during this public hearing section? Seeing none, I will now close the public hearing, and I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the resolution adopting the plan update.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion, comments? I just want to thank particularly the DMC staff, Catherine in particular, Patrick, and the support of Cindy in the work that has occurred. This has been a very long process, but particularly at our halfway point, I feel like this has been uniquely valuable. We've got enough experience in the first 10 years to help guide and inform us, and we have more clarity about our aspirations for the next 10 years. So this is a really meaningful document. It's been thoroughly reviewed as stated by the city, by the EDA board, and it is with pleasure that I will now ask Tammy to call the roll on a vote.
Baker,
Aye.
Beckman,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Chair Wheelock.
Aye. Thank you very much. Now we turn to some action items. We have the first action item is a consideration of a pair of historic district infrastructure requests, and I will turn to staff to present these projects.
Thank you. We'll welcome DMC staff member Brooke Carlson to join as the person who is leading this work. Where's the... So thank you. As you just to introduce this topic, you know that you have authorized and considered the downtown historic district as important infrastructure to our community. And you've done that with the understanding that the downtown historic district adds to the experience goal that we have, the idea that people come to Rochester and while experiencing the new things going on in Rochester, also feel the familiar. It also is part of our strategy to help downtown property owners, but specifically to the extent that they are contributing to the strength and preservation and rehabilitation of our historic district. And so our investment, your investment in this can only happen on a project by project basis when the property owner is prepared and interested in investing their own money supported by these resources to continue to grow the strength of the downtown historic district. So with that, Brooke.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yes. So we have two properties before you today. I'm going to spend more time on the first one. So starting off with the second one on the list today is an updated request from John Kriesel. You will likely recall that he had a project previously approved for about $127,000 of a $250,000+ project. This is an update to that request that allows for some additional investment and improvements related to windows, some safety features, and a stairwell. So that is a fairly straightforward request of $6,000. The second project today is related to the Olmsted County Bank building, which is directly next to the DMC office. And here it's described as an exterior envelope preservation and interior reuse. It is a request for the full $500,000, which is the full amount that each property in the district is eligible for. So we call it an envelope improvement, but it is proposing a boutique hotel and cafe. And this design may look familiar. It was before the Heritage Preservation Commission and City Council in 2021 for a request called a Certificate of Appropriateness. That request was granted, meaning that a potentially historic property could be modified. Now, this property has been in the media recently. They came forward to City Council with a request to remove the building from the district, to demolish it and create a multi-building, large-scale development. This request was denied by City Council. Thus, they've come forward with their original plan, which did receive Main Street grant investment for some pre-design and design work in 2021. So they've come back to us with a request to use that original design approach for a 6-story hotel. Now, a few important notes before we move forward into your discussion. This property is the discussion we had at our last meeting around refining the program specifically related to adaptive reuse comes into play with this building, because we did decide that any addition would not be an eligible expense under our program, and that our dollars that would go into this building would only be applicable for eligible expenses related to the core and shell of the existing structure. So with city staff, we've broken down those expenses to ensure that there are indeed at least $1 million of eligible expenses. And indeed, there are about over $3 million of eligible expenses. So we know that this $500,000 would for sure go into the core and shell of that existing structure, considered part of the historic district. While our investment is about $500,000 of a $17 million plus investment, it is a really exciting opportunity for our downtown. We do not have something like a boutique hotel, so it would fulfill an important niche. And this building is sitting vacant, and we have already invested in it. So we would indeed really like to see it turn into a valuable, productive property in our community.
Thank you. Questions, comments, Member Schubring?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a clarification. So, Ms. Carlson, you mentioned that the City Council in 2021 approved the Certificate of Appropriateness. So my question is, besides approving this recommended DMC funding that will go to the City Council, are there any other City Council approvals that this project will need? And I'll ask that to you and Ms. Steinhauser.
Cindy, go ahead if you.
Sure. Thank you for the question. This project would not require additional approvals by the City Council following the approval of the award of these dollars. It would then be at staff level site plan review and approval.
A follow-up. And with the dollars or the $17 million project, are there protections for anything on the inside of the building?
In the agreement between the City of Rochester, and Cindy, I'll let you speak to this if you'd like as well, but between the developer and the city, there are a whole number of safeguards throughout the project to ensure inspections and that our requirements are being met. For this particular project, there's been a request to submit photo evidence as well of progress. So there'll be close partnership between the city and the property.
Just a little clarification, and that I appreciate that, and that's good. Is there any? It's been a long time since I've been in the building. I'm not recalling if there's any historic elements in the 2-story building.
Sure. Thank you for the question. And admittedly, it's been a few years since I've been in the building as well. But what's important to understand when it comes to historic properties, the requirements are to protect the envelope. That is not conditions related to any preservation of interior historic features. And I don't recall that there were anything that stood out in the time that I went through it. But suffice it to say, the dollars are really around the preservation of the exterior envelope of the structure.
Thank you.
Yes, Member Williams.
Just what's the location? Where is it?
It is at 7 Second Street, right next to the Rosa Parks building on Second Street by our office.
Okay, okay. And I love the design in downtown St. Paul. We did a building called the Penfield where we kept what was the old, I think, fire station police department facade, and kind of very similar to this. So just it can work, and it can be attractive.
I'll ask a question or maybe make a comment. I am assuming, and if my assumption is incorrect, I'm requesting that the financing for this project be fully in place before the 500,000 is released for the project. And I'm assuming that's part of our process, is they have to have total financing available before our funds are released for the eligible uses. But Patrick, I see you nodding.
Yep, Madam
State
Chair,
that for
understood.
record. Perfect. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I would welcome a motion for the approval of these two projects.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this resolution? Seeing none, I'll ask Tammy to take the roll.
Baker,
Aye.
Beckman,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Hi.
Chair Wheelock.
Aye. Next on our agenda are discussion items. These are project progress discussions. We have several updates that we're going to get from the staff here today. We are not taking action on any of these today. I do anticipate that at our May meeting or beyond our May meeting, we will be asked to consider action on one or more of these items. So this is simply to give us an update about the work in progress that may come before our board in the not too distant future. And so with that, I'd like to ask Patrick to go ahead and start the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the board. We appreciate the opportunity to give you some line of sight into areas of work that we're actively involved with. And at any given time, we are involved in many, many projects and many, many initiatives. This attempt today is to highlight 4 places that of projects or initiatives we're working on that are various stages of maturation. Understand that they are all in alignment and consistent with this newly adopted DMC strategic priorities from a moment ago. And primarily the ones that we're presenting for discussion today or for your awareness is in this category we call drive purposeful growth. And this is this idea about being intentional and active and proactive in seeking growth that aligns with our mission and vision. There are 4 we're going to discuss. I'll take the lead on the first of the 4. And again, our goal is to give you a line of sight into this, to hear your feedback or insights or questions, so that as we continue the work with those project sponsors, we do so with an understanding of how this aligns with your priorities. The first of the 4 that we're going to discuss, and as I said, I will take the lead with this one, has to do with the University of Minnesota. Of course, the University of Minnesota, President Cunningham was with us at our December meeting, describing their vision for continued and active growth of the UMR campus. We are actively, and I won't spend a lot of time on each of these slides, except to say that we've created a format that we hope conveys a bit about the overview of the project, about why it matters and how it fits under this category of drive purposeful growth. Workforce and talent infrastructure, as we've talked about so many times, critical to the future of our community, especially the Discovery Square growth and life science competitiveness. Just as an update, university leadership briefed us in December. We have been actively involved with the university since that moment, alongside our city partners who will be likewise actively involved. There are just as a reminder, there are really three prongs to the University of Minnesota's growth strategy, and they all have to ladder up together. One is to develop a laboratory classroom space. Secondly, and not necessarily in order, but alongside that, there has to be additional housing capacity to house student body growth. And similarly, there needs to be academic environment for students and faculty for additional traditional classrooms. So all of these three things happening somewhat simultaneously. The first of those three is the work that we're doing with them to develop a program for additional lab classroom space in Discovery Square, where they already have a presence, but need to grow that presence, and using the opportunity of biolabs and their existing presence to increase the amount of lab classroom space. At the same time, there are active conversations going on regarding relationship with the city around development of academic building and student housing. I bring this to you today because we would imagine a likely scenario of bringing a more formal request to this board in the second quarter meeting around supporting their growth of the lab classroom space in Discovery Square. So all of three of these things have to move somewhat simultaneously. I think the one that is most ready to move forward will be the lab classroom space and the support that they will be looking for to help advance that.
Thank you. Why don't we go through them all, and then we can come back and see what discussion there is.
Great. Pass this down to Jamie.
Good morning, board. I'm here to provide just a quick update on the Chateau Theater. You might recall back in 2024 during our CIP discussion, the DMCC board gave staff direction that before additional spending happened, they would like to see an operational and capital improvement plan from the city, so that could inform future spending. We've been working closely with city staff as that has progressed, providing input and feedback along the way. I wanted to provide some updates from that conversation, but also wanted to remind the board why the Chateau is so incredibly important to our community. It is in the heart of the city. There's been significant investment in the building and around the space. It's where our community gathers for many different reasons. Continual investment continues to happen in that area, and it is really a cultural anchor for our downtown. So in January, city staff brought forward to a city council study session a set of recommendations that land within an operational and capital improvement plan. There was a lot of discussion during that, and ultimately city council gave direction back to city staff that they would like to have some deeper dive into a number of different categories, which included costs, identifying which critical infrastructure needed to be improved, more operational discussion. There's a number of different operational plans that could help to be implemented in this building, and city council wanted to understand those a bit more, some more collaborative ways to do that. They also asked for some more community and stakeholder input into the process as well. So we're anticipating that that information is going to go back to city council end of second quarter, and we'll participate in that, and then we'll bring back that information as council makes its decision, and we see a more finalized operational and capital improvement plan. And I'll hand this back, I believe, to Patrick for the next topic.
Catherine. Oh, I guess Jamie.
Back to me. Hello. I'm going to provide now an update on Spark. Spark is a plays-based community museum, children's museum that's located in Rochester. It's been a part of our community for a long time. It started, as often children's museums do, as traveling exhibits that went to school and other types of events in our community. And eventually now is located at our mall, at Apache Mall, and it's its second location. We have been in conversations with Spark, along with a number of other community leaders about what is their future and what does that look like. And these were leaders from across our community, not only downtown, but we thought it would be helpful to come together just to talk about what are the museum's goals, what alignment could happen downtown or other locations. So it was a really good community discussion. I believe the mayor joined and others in that process throughout the last couple years. We believe that having a children's museum downtown would be a tremendous asset to our downtown. We know that a downtown or downtown adjacent location would drive foot traffic. It would bring more business. And we hear often that people are looking for more family-oriented activity in our downtown as well. So I'm excited to share with you that the Children's Museum is considering a number of different downtown locations. They are deep diving into these different locations to understand its fit, alignment with its strategic plan, with its capital campaign. And so we wanted to bring this forward to you to know that it is an active discussion, and we'll be excited to bring more updates to you in the near future.
Thank you. Patrick, I think you're up.
Yes, sorry. Doing a bit of a dance here. Catherine, I don't know that we have the right slides loaded up, so you're
Okay.
gonna have to live without slides.
Right.
Okay. They
It's
should
the
be in
desert
the-
scene.
Give me 30 seconds.
Okay.
I think we can
So
cover it orally.
yes, I will. We're going to talk about housing innovation. So housing is certainly a topic that has been of great interest to this board and to City Council as well. We had a great discussion about it in November at our study session. And to date, the sort of main mechanism through which DMC has operated is as a partner in the Coalition for Rochester Area Housing. And the 5 members of that are the city, county, Mayo Clinic, Rochester Area Foundation, and the DMC. And the intention of that partnership is really to think about the housing needs across the community, because job growth in the DMC district requires housing growth across the entire region. And so to ensure that we're all operating from the same playbook, so to speak, the comprehensive needs analysis of the housing for this region was completed for the first time in 2020. And then that analysis, all 335 pages of it, was completed again in 2025 with an update so that we really understand in more real time what the needs are across our community. So that's a really valuable resource that we pointed to and worked with when we did the plan update. But also to sort of take the approach that DMC, to highlight the approach that we've had over the last decade of work, is really around this concept of affordable living that combines not just housing costs, but also lower transportation costs, and through our sustainability investments, lower utility costs. And I'm excited to bring before you today, I think it was mentioned earlier in the meeting, but in December, one of the fruits of these labors that many have been involved with over several years out at the West Transit Village, that first phase, which is being led by Aon, affordable housing developer. They have received support from this board and city council, and in December were awarded over $17.5 million more from MHFA to support those 75 units of senior affordable housing, including deeply affordable housing at the West Transit Village, that will be wrapping 2 sides of the structured parking deck that Mayo is doing. So that was really big and exciting news that occurred in late December. And then a reminder of kind of the sort of lack of housing production that occurred between 2000 and about 2017, with only around 1,100 units in the downtown, and sort of the boost of almost doubling the number of residents in the downtown over the past decade is good news, but that doesn't mean there isn't more to do. And so today, what I really wanted to bring forward was DMC's role within this housing ecosystem is to be focused on the innovation in housing that really connects to our strategic priorities, and to preview a few of those opportunities that are already in the works, akin to the other opportunities that were just shared with you, but in the housing sector. So you heard a little bit during the public hearing about one of the aging in place strategies that a partnership is working on, in this case using tech-enabled housing to facilitate aging in place. They're working on a prototype that could be deployed in the downtown to really be a research and testing center that would help inspire actual change in the housing industry and the production of housing that enables aging in place. And that was a topic of focus in last year's real estate summit. And we're really excited to see that ecosystem start to grow a little bit more here in Rochester. We've also heard repeatedly that increasing ownership opportunities and equitable access to wealth building in the downtown is of interest, and that's going to be the focus of the upcoming real estate summit, and really looking for ways to ensure equitable economic access to ownership opportunities in housing. And there's already been some initiatives around that to date, and we can see growing that going forward. We're also looking at launching a small scale development ecosystem strategy, which would be kind of more smaller scale infill development. How do we foster and grow a community of those types of developers in Rochester? And then, as always, we are very interested in any sort of construction methodology innovations such as mass timber, passive house, modular. We would love to see developers interested in those types of innovative technologies come to Rochester and try them out here.
Thank you, Patrick.
I think those are the comments that we wanted to make to tee up any feedback or questions you might have.
Great. So that's an overview of 4 things that will be coming back in front of us. Comments, questions, Member Norton?
Yeah, just quickly, really appreciate that you're working with the Children's Museum. We've been working for years to try to find a better location, although I will say the parking out at the mall is a plus, so we have to always address parking, particularly when you're talking about young children and moms and dads dragging them around. So in a positive way. Sorry about that. And maybe that's speaking of my own history. Sorry. I had 4. So I did want to mention, the Rochester Visioning 2050 exercise. We've been really digging into that and using AI and pulling some things out. And I just want to mention this idea of entertainment for Mayo Clinic visitors as well as the city. You can really see that in the data that we're looking at. And 2 things come to mind that aren't specifically on your 4 things you've addressed, but I just want to raise them up. One is a performing arts center, which has come up again and again and again over the years. I looked back at past studies, and that is something. We have some folks actually here today. I was hoping they might speak in the public comments, and they did not yet, but you'll be hearing from them soon. I would really like us to keep our eyes on that need, because it is what the community has asked for. And also this idea of some sort of medical museum, with Mayo Clinic here and being the world's best healthcare. There's a lot we could share with that. And I know there's been some discussion, but those are 2 of those future items. And actually one of the reasons why I really like your 5 and 10-year plan, because it is open-ended, allowing for more things that the community wants to come through. So I will get the information forwarded from this latest draw of specifically, we looked at capital projects that might be wanted and desired by the community using the Dubuque model. That's what they did. And they promised their community the top 10 things. We're not promising the top 10 things, but we do want you to look at them, and we want the city to look at them too. So that's coming in the future.
Thank you. Member Williams and then Member Schubert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 things. One, thrilled to hear about the continued progress and the continued work with UMR. I just again, workforce just is front and center, I think, and the success that we've seen. It was great to have Rebecca Cunningham here and sharing that vision. So excited to see progress there. And just then on the housing work, the Housing Coalition, again, glad to see that moving forward. When we talk about, so what happens when DMC goes away eventually? It's mechanisms like that coalition that have some capacity to continue the work. And the innovation work that we're doing, I think, is exciting, particularly around ownership, smaller scale properties. I would just put and multifamily affordable rental is the biggest need. I haven't looked at the Maxfield 330-page report yet, but I will. But that is the biggest need, and supply, increasing supply is what will drive rents down. That's what's going to drive costs down, and we just have to stay after supply. Thrilled to hear that Aon got their funding. Was that the final piece of their funding, or did they have to go back?
I believe so.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
great.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. Thank you.
Member Schubring?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the update on all of the projects, in particular on housing. I just wanted to add that from a city standpoint, I mean, housing has been somewhat flat over the last few years, but we currently have 1,600 permits, plats, and plans in the queue in the city of Rochester, which obviously goes beyond the DMC district. And there's also, we're starting to see national builders come into Rochester, Lennar, Pulte, others. And what that's doing is bringing unique and innovative building practices to Rochester for our southeastern Minnesota builders to see how they do it, and it will increase competition and quality over the long haul. So interested in updates on how that's impacting the building market. I did want to talk about the historic chateau and the discussion that we had at the city council. It was a robust discussion, as Ms. Rothy mentioned, on several pieces. One, and maybe Cindy, Ms. Steinhauser can clarify this. There is a decision-making driver that's from a city standpoint. We have a contract with Threshold Arts. They've had that contract for the last 4 years, and that team has really done an amazing job of making it a community resource and bringing in people into that site, which next year will celebrate its 100th anniversary. It's as we all know, a unique aesthetic, and we want to make sure we, from a city standpoint, highlight it the best we can. It also has, as we know, a enviable location right there in the heart of the city. So from a city standpoint, I think we're looking at what's the next step. We have really built out the community aspect, and is there a way then to, as the mayor said, make it a regional performing arts center, bring in more nationals? And so one of the models that we talked about was looking at Experience Rochester and their operational ability to bring it to the next level. So looking forward to the next discussion at the city council on both, what that operational model can be, and is there a partnership that Threshold Arts with their community focus and Experience Rochester with their national ability to draw events and programming here, if that can be an operational model, and then more clarity on the capital And that I think from my perspective on the council, we want to take it to the next step, but can we take it to the next step with a effective and efficient model that can, as the use of the facility grows, that we can take it then to an even further step. But I wanted to clarify with Ms. Steinhauser as to that we do have a decision that we do have to make at the city level.
Contract.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Member Schubring. I think you captured really, really well our biggest takeaways from the study session. The current contract does expire at the end of the year, and so the clock is ticking, and so that's why we anticipate coming back to you, to the City Council by Q2, with the follow-up information that you've requested, so that we can take adequate direction.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions? I think just following on the theme of Chateau, maybe just a couple of other comments to consider as you think about this work. Get ready to go back to the city in Q2 and potentially come back to us. It is a well-situated historic building, and the current operator has done a really great job of increasing the activation in that space. These are also highly inflexible structures, and it is site-bound. It does not allow for a lot of opportunity to think about changing the nature of what can occur there by expanding its footprint. And so my curiosity has been, what is the current structure best suited for, and what should be our sense of expectation without significant capital infusion and structural changes? What is the best case scenario about what it can do in the community for meeting our needs in its current state? And then very specifically, if there is going to be a proposal around a capital infusion, I'd really like to see what the reliable expectations are about ROI on that, because we have a lot of other competing opportunities, and this is about the opportunity cost for the money. And it may be, if the community needs and will support a performing arts center, is that the right glove in which to put that hand? So let's be really thoughtful about, we have a decision that we're gonna have to make about further capital needs for that structure, and what can we rely on for ROI expectations. And then the last thing I will say is, as we sit in this building on the edge of the riverfront, it feels so separate from the rest of the downtown. We've got a really busy Broadway that people have to cross. We know that we have plans in the future about increased development on this side of Broadway, but I'm looking for opportunities to really help have a more cohesive and connected downtown by the end of 2034, and what might be the best way to accomplish that. So thank you for those opportunity to provide that feedback. I think this is really helpful and important to us to see a little snippet about the coming interactions and to create a reaction to that. And there's a lot of work that continues to be done on these, and we will look forward to having them back at a future meeting in some fashion.
Thank you. Appreciate the feedback and the insights.
We are running amazingly ahead of schedule. And so we do have the information items that are in your packet. We don't often have the opportunity for any discussion or feedback or comments on those. I'm going to invite you to see if there are things that we haven't already addressed in this agenda item that we just concluded. So I will welcome any questions for staff, and I guess I will tee one up and ask, can we get a brief update on the planning that's underway related to the downtown infrastructure alignment item that we previously preliminarily approved as part of the 2026-27 CIP? And I see Cindy nodding her head, and so I'll turn to you and see if you want to respond to that question.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Wheelock. So again, we want to express our appreciation to this board for your support of the $38 million to do infrastructure in downtown and support Rochester's growth. There's lots of coordination work already underway, both across our city departments, but also in collaboration with our partners at DMC, as well as our other partners who are focused on downtown development. and can have construction in downtown, whether Mayo, RDA, others. Design work is already underway using some of the resources that you've provided. We have the need to complete design yet this year so that the work that we can move into the construction phase, and we want to do it in a way that's very thoughtful and in alignment with the construction and coordinate with the construction that's already underway, so we can really lean into that guiding principle of dig once. So we will be coming to you in May with a very detailed update on kind of what the schedule looks like, how our team is approaching the work, and asking for a release of some funds. When you authorized the $38 million, there was conditions attached to the release of those dollars. So we anticipate coming back in May and asking for release and have some really good data back to back that request up based on the schedule. I would also just say that at that same time, we're wrapping up two major infrastructure projects that this board supported, and that is Discovery Walk and Heart of the City. I would also anticipate that in May, we are coming back to you with a wrap-up report related to those projects. Have been very well executed and have received a lot of really great feedback already. So very brief update, but much more detail in May.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Member Norton?
Yeah, in the energy and sustainability report that you have down there, I had a question about that. You know, initially we've been working, and I've got a meeting actually scheduled, I think tomorrow, to talk a little bit more about what's been happening with the geothermal. And we had initially talked about phases, and I see in here we're still talking about phases, but we had a proposal come through for a developer for a development right across the street from the Civic Center. I know that project was affected when we stepped back from creating the geothermal district. And as I'm looking at phase 2, I'm not sure I'm seeing any re-energization. I can't even see it.
Energization.
Thank you. I can't say that word. About phase 2 and the district concept. And I'm wondering if that has affected, if someone can share if that's affected that development or not, because we had quite a bit of discussion with those folks and it seems to have died back. And I'm just curious where that stands right now.
Or Catherine, related to.
Sure. Yes. So the timing due to the pause that was enacted in December of 2023 meant that the Sherman project proceeded without the geothermal connection. And so we are, and then with the sort of new understanding of UMR's growth and their adjacency to other public assets and the potential for connectivity there, we are in very, very preliminary kind of trying to understand what makes the most sense for the next steps, given the kind of current reality and the new things that we know are on the horizon. And so, I don't have anything clear to report back today, but we can take a look and sort of start to figure out what a forward-looking strategy might look like with the new kind of ground truth that we have.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it does sound like geothermal is still being reimbursed as a tax credit by the federal government. And I don't know how long that'll last, but it is currently. And so I wondered, are we jeopardizing the Sherman project? It's kind of, I haven't heard anything about it. Have they found financing to move ahead with their project without this? Or is it, as we move forward to phase 2 with the university, can they be included in that? Or we just walked away from that?
Yeah, so the timing on Sherman in particular has passed. So they're proceeding without a geothermal in that project. Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Member Williams.
Just wanted to get an update on the Loom Apartments. I read through that, through the update on that one. Sounds like they continue to kind of shift and hold. Now they've tried to shift into is it a 4% bond deal, which with tax credits would accompany that? And how is their progress coming on that?
Yeah, I think that they are in a moment, it has changed even since our last quarter board meeting. So we kind of gave them, this board granted them an extension to August of 2026. And their strategy has continued to shift. We're still hopeful that they will be able to figure out a way of compiling that deal that makes sense in the current market realities so that they can move ahead. We're very excited about this project, but I think it's uncertain at this point.
It's a big affordable project. And if I remember correctly, the bond deals are more tied to city bonding capacity as opposed to state, correct?
The city advances to it's to like projects to the state at the request of the developer, and the city was definitely ready and
Okay.
willing to support it. The developer elected not to advance it to the state.
Okay, thank you.
I will just add, this project is important on a number of levels, including the affordability that it offered. It's a project that this board supported. It also would coincide with important timing of the reconstruction of Sixth Avenue. And so we are hopeful that we could create alignment, both because it's a good project and because it would help us optimize the design of Sixth Avenue as a gateway into Rochester.
Great. Thank you.
I do not see any other questions or comments from the board. So thank you, Patrick, and your entire team for all of the work that you did to prepare for today's meeting. It was much appreciated and really reflects months and months of effort. So thank you.
I think if I could just say that sometimes adoption of a 5-year plan feels anticlimactic after months of it being in front of people. And so I would like to just simply acknowledge and offer our appreciation for the DMCC's board support of that process and the insights and both as a public body, but individually that you made in advancing that plan. So I don't want this moment to pass without giving it a bit more visibility.
Thank you, Patrick. I think as we all know, and as yet again demonstrated by this activity to update the plan, how you do things really matters. And the extent of effort and intentionality about making this a very collaborative and inclusive process can only make it more effective and more likely to be realized. So it's a community building project as much as it is about developing and a strategic set of outlooks and strategies. And we thank you for your effort on that. It was very effectively accomplished. So thank you. I'm just going to say that our next meeting is, as I said, the executive committee meets on March 13th. Our next regular meeting is May 21st at 9:30 a.m. at the Civic Center here. And Patrick, can I just ask, is there any update about a collaborative meeting in 2026 and when that is scheduled with our partners?
Yes, thank you. We do intend to do that collaborative session on May 21st as well. I have to calendar that and also to think about perhaps a model for that gets the boards together out into community and to see some of the projects in flight, sort of modeling after city council oftentimes does study sessions where they do it on a bus. So this is a concept that we'd like to consider.
So please note, members, to extend your schedule on that day until at least mid-afternoon, and we'll look forward to hearing more about that. All right, at this point, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Tammy, will you call the roll?
Baker,
Aye.
Beckman,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Chair Wheelock.
Aye. Thank you very much. We stand adjourned.
Thank you.